Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Baltimore County's second annual Community Leaders Summit, hosted by your county executive, Johnny Oshesky. I'm Mandy Remmel, Director for the County Executive's Office of Community Engagement, and joined with me here today is my wonderful team of outreach coordinators that I'm sure many of you talk to or run into maybe weekly or even daily. What community engagement is about is connection, communication, collaboration, and collaboration, all to better our communities. It's great to see so many community leaders here and who are returning, and some new faces as well, so welcome. Thank you to each and every one of you for your hard work and commitment to your neighborhoods, and we appreciate you continuing to join us on this path to move Baltimore County forward. Today's Community Leaders Summit will provide you with an intimate opportunity to engage with our department heads, county staff, division chief, and our nurses from the R. Adams Cowley Shock Trauma Center, who later on today will be teaching us a life-saving skill called Stop the Bleed. We have selected different breakout sessions this year, and in all of the red folders that you received when you checked in this morning, you can review those breakout session schedules for this afternoon. If you did not receive a red folder, you did not check in, you can grab one from the registration table at the front. And lastly, if you did not register or pre-register for a Stop the Bleed training session, later today during lunch, we will have sign-up available at the registration table as well, so you can jump into one of those breakout sessions. We want to thank all of our county agencies for being here today, all of our department heads, all of our staff. You will have another opportunity during lunch to visit our community cabinet open house, so where you can view those department tables you may have not gotten to earlier this morning. And you can grab all the different resources and some great giveaways that we have for you as well. Without further ado, it is my honor to introduce the man who needs no introduction, our county executive, Johnny Oshesky.
Can we give Mandy and the community engagement team a round of applause? Thank you, Mandy. I have to say, first of all, good morning. It is great to see so many partners in progress here in this room today. I have to say that the Office of Community Engagement is probably by far one of the things that I was most excited to add and create when I started this journey with all of you. I hope that you find that Mandy and her incredible team are responsive and good resources to assist you in the many issues facing all of our communities across Baltimore County. I hope that you know that this was actually their brainchild. It was something that Mandy and her team actually brought forward as an idea to bring all of our communities together once a year for this Leaders Forum. And so, Mandy, I commend all of you in OCE for the work that you do, but also for thinking about pulling our leaders together. You know, we really view it as a privilege to work alongside each and every one of you. You are our partners in progress. You are the ones who do the work every day in our neighborhoods. And I really want to just say, we're proud of the progress we've built together. I hope that your return to this community leaders gathering or your coming this year is a reflection of that partnership. And so I hope that you find today to be very, very productive and helpful. Really, you know, our approach to governing started with taking a new approach, and that was to turn government inside out and to recognize that decisions are best made on the ground. They're best made in listening. They're best made by inviting people in. We recognize that that's both how we operate externally with our community partners, but also how county government operates internally. That's why one of the first things that we did was we introduced major ethics reform to change how we do business and to strengthen trust and accountability in your local government. It's why we've created, and we're proud to have expanded each and every year, the county's Office of Inspector General That's why we have passed lobbying laws to make that more transparent. That's why we have pushed for a public financing system of local elections, which will take effect in 2026 for both county executive and county council members. We're hoping to open up opportunities for more of your neighbors, or maybe even some of you, to run for county council and county executive. We, as I mentioned, we're proud to create the Office of Community Engagement, where each district has a dedicated representative and liaison. We worked with all of you to stand up the county's first 311 system to better connect residents to resources. For those of you who have been to town halls, it was interesting to see we've got some work to do in terms of making more people aware of that service. But we also created BC Stat, the county's first ever data performance management system. We built the county's first ever budget platform where you can now go down to the paycheck and see where our resources are going. We're excited about the work that BC Stat in particular has done. They will be following me later this morning with a presentation, I believe, with Chief Whitlock about accessing those resources and those dashboards. But again, we knew that this is about bringing more of you to the table. That's what we're doing today. That's what we've done through our annual budget town halls. And we want to thank you for being the champions who have brought your neighbors to the table. We've seen thousands of residents year after year not only hear good truths, sometimes hard truths about the current status of our budget, but to really say what the priorities were. And I hope that in each of those budgets you've seen yourselves and you've seen your communities reflected in those budgets. As you know, I like to remind people over and over again, education continues to be a top priority for me as someone who was a BCPS graduate myself, someone who taught in the school system, and someone who had to play school bus this morning for the 4 kids on our bus stop. Like all their parents, I experienced the challenges of late buses and other issues in our school system, but together we're making significant progress, and that was reflected in our record-shattering $71 million above the minimum requirement of maintenance of effort last year. It was the largest ever dollar amount increase given to the school system. It was the largest ever real dollar amount given to the school system. And we're coupling that with a $3.3 billion capital plan called the Multi-Year Improvement Plan for All Schools, my IPAS. It will allow us to modernize our learning environments, ensure that our schools are safe, and upgrade the infrastructure to ensure the safety and well-being and success of our young learners. This year's budget that we're currently in has over $210 million just in school infrastructure to deliver on that promise, whether it is the 21st century buildings with like new schools at Towson or new schools at Delaney and Lansdowne High Schools, millions for overcrowding in the Northeast and Southeast, a new CTE center in Northwest Baltimore County, and over $114 million in electrical upgrades, roofing replacement, windows replacements, and other improvements for schools across our county. We also this year were excited to announce that in partnership with CCBC, we are now making community college nearly free universally. So for any family making less than $150,000 a year, our commitment to Baltimore County families is you can attend your community college tuition free moving forward. And that is for any full-time, part-time, or workforce credential. We're very excited about bringing that forward. We were excited about our work on not just education, but also on housing, because we know that housing is a huge challenge, and we want to make sure that folks both have opportunities to find a job through things like CCBC, but also have a place to call home. And so we started early on by ending the practice of housing discrimination by source of income in Baltimore County, by establishing the county's first Department of Housing and Community Development. And earlier this year, we joined our partners on the County Council to introduce and pass an additional foundational housing reform package. Everything from creating a new housing opportunities fund, where we have $16 million of federal recovery dollars to sustain investments moving forward. We now have a definition of vacant structures that we are defining, identifying, and going after, working with all of you. We are updating and modernizing our construction guidelines. And for families who want to grow, or for seniors who want the dignity of aging in place, we're also modernizing our accessory dwelling unit requirements. But moving forward, we're going to continue to do all that we can to literally build a better and stronger Baltimore County. We know one of the big issues that affects not just the county, but also Baltimore City and Howard County and the region is a modern and equitable water and wastewater system. We know that for far too long, we've operated under a system that has been not reflective of the changes we've seen the last 50 years. We're operating under an agreement that is over 50 years old, and it doesn't reflect the incredible growth we've seen. So I'm proud that we are finally taking steps to modernize our water and wastewater systems. We worked with Governor Moore, Senate President Bill Ferguson, Speaker Jones, and Mayor Scott. We now have a Baltimore Regional Water Governance Task Force that kicked off last week in Randallstown. We'll have a diverse collection of experts, elected officials, meeting in Baltimore City, Baltimore County, and virtually to ensure that the 1.8 million people who are served by our water and wastewater systems have modern, equitable, safe drinking water, but also we're looking at things like capital infrastructure, billing, et cetera. So I'm looking forward to implementing those recommendations as we move forward, not just Baltimore County, but the entire region. We know that coming together on these kinds of big issues, we can accomplish great things. And one of the places where we're showing that that's possible is in Essex, a cherished and tight-knit community that has faced some long-standing challenges, but has also been exacerbated by the COVID-19 pandemic. So in 21, as part of the recovery, we developed the county's first place-based initiative. It's called Essex Reimagined, to address these challenges and to lift the community up. In leveraging over $3 million of federal ARPA funding, we have introduced a trash cart pilot that we've now expanded to another part of the county. We have initiated a commercial revitalization effort along the Eastern Boulevard commercial corridor. We partnered with the state to bring in ROCA to support violence intervention and reduction. And we are using a new streetscaping and roadway improvement efforts to sort of surround further. In addition to all of those investments, we're also making sure that we're having our agencies, aging, PAI, Rec and Parks, Economic and Workforce Development, come together, talk to our school systems so that we're truly being holistic. And what we're seeing is incredible progress, and we believe that this can be a model for several other communities moving forward, where we do wraparound services to lift up and promote our communities. We're already looking at places like Dundalk and Woodlawn, who have also faced historical challenges, and we're ready to embrace this brighter future through this wraparound approach. We also know that for too long, many of our communities and the regional anchors that support them have been underinvested in. A perfect example of that is Security Square, a beloved site that for more than 50 years served as a destination for retail, dining, and small businesses. And after we've seen disinvestment and underinvestment there, we are proud to be jump-starting and reinfusing new energy at this site. I want to thank, in particular, Baltimore County's own Speaker, Adrian Jones, and our other state leaders for putting forward more than $15 million at the state that we've matched locally to support our long-term vision for this site's redevelopment. This really reflects an interest in the community, and so not just with county government, but also with sites like Security. We saw over 1,000 residents come together to develop a long-term plan for that site. So we're both leading as a county government, whether it's in Essex or soon in Dundalk and Woodlawn or at Security. You can fill in the blanks that we're doing this kind of work all over the county. But when we're not leading, we're also there at the table at places like the Pikesville Armory, where we have a nonprofit that is literally about to take possession of the old Pikesville Armory. With support of federal, state, and local dollars, we'll transform that site into a community hub as well. I mean, these really do hopefully demonstrate to you all that we are trying to listen and be responsive, and demonstrates our commitment to revitalize sites and communities across all of Baltimore County. So, to some of the stars of the show, we know that none of this progress happens in a vacuum. And the transformation we've seen these past 5 years has been a result of the community leaders, the advocates, and the heroes who we are blessed to serve and represent. In a moment, we'll be recognizing some of those heroes who have gone above and beyond to make Baltimore County a better place. But before we do, I just want to say that I know the selection process was nearly impossible for the committee who did the work, because we literally could give an award to each and every one of you in this room for the incredible service and sacrifices you all make. You all make Baltimore County a better, brighter, and happier place, and I wish we could name everyone in this room a community hero. But we are excited to have some honorees tonight who we think have, and particularly recently, stepped above and beyond. We know that the progress would not be possible without all of them and all of you. So thank you on behalf of all of our residents for the partnership. I trust that today is a rewarding and really just a good day to connect with your peers across the county. So thanks for everything you have done, for everything we will do together. With that, I think I am reintroducing our rock star director of the Office of Community Engagement, Mandy Remmel, to do the 2023 Community Heroes.
All right, everyone. So Baltimore County has an incredible network of strong, vibrant communities at the center of many of them are those of you here in this room today. You all are advocating for your neighborhoods, your neighbors, your communities, your students, your children. And those of you here today make up this incredible, diverse network. We thank you for your commitment to Baltimore County. And in June of this year, our county executive launched this inaugural Community Heroes Awards with a call for submissions for individuals across the county who have made significant contributions to their communities. And as the county executive said, after receiving dozens of nominations and a very robust application process, we have selected 7 tireless individuals who strive each and every day to go above and beyond for their communities, and their dedication to Baltimore County makes Baltimore County a great place to live, work, and raise a family. We will start in District 1, and with a community hero, we'll go all the way up through 7. We'll start in District 1 with a community hero who has dedicated his life to serving individuals, organizations, and communities. Actively serving as president of the Halethorpe Civic League for the past 15 years, this community leader also serves on the Baltimore County Ethics Commission, as president of the Wilkins Police and Community Relations Organization, chairman of the board for the HUD Federal Credit Union, president of the Kittrell College National Alumni Association, and board member of the People for Change Coalition. Many who have had the pleasure meeting this individual have described him as having a heart for service. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome me in honoring your 2023 Community Hero for Councilmanic District 1, Mr. Otis Collins. Mr. Collins could not be here with us today. He is on a cruise in Bermuda. I know, lucky guy. So we invite Mr. Vince Johnson of the Halethorpe Civic League here to accept this award on his behalf. We got that? Oh, there we are. There we go. Perfect. The next hero currently is co-chairing 2 work groups on the dementia-friendly Baltimore County's community leadership team, neighborhoods and recreation and parks. She advocates for accessibility in our parks and outdoor spaces for vulnerable residents. This community leader created Your Nana Next Door, which brings older adults suffering from dementia to greet children at local school bus stops. She has a passion for bringing community residents together and recently organized the Gwen Oak Mosaic Project and Unity Festival, celebrating the 60th anniversary of desegregation of Gwen Oak Park. known as a remarkable community leader who raises awareness about her community's history and legacy. Please come join me in congratulating your 2023 Baltimore County Community Hero for District 2, Ms. Dawn Seedstead. With Baltimore County's youth at the center of her focus, this community leader strives to advocate for all students living in poverty in Baltimore County. In 2015, she created a 501c3 nonprofit organization to provide vulnerable students at Loch Raven High School with the essentials they need to prepare for a successful academic year. The program, now called the Student Support Network, was quickly expanded and currently serves 21 students with school supplies, 21 schools, my apologies, with supplies, emergency funding for families in need, and ongoing advocacy on behalf of those facing food insecurity. We appreciate the dedication to the success and safety of our youth. We are honored to name Ms. Laurie Taylor Mitchell as your 2023 Baltimore County Community Hero for District 3. As we move to District 4, the next community hero is known as a pillar of the Owens Mills Newtown community. This individual is active in the Owens Mills community, serving as board president. She has contributed to various successful community events, including the wonderful, if you haven't been, Owens Mills Newtown Jazz and Wine Festival, National Night Out events, and community beautification projects. She continues to serve as an active committee member of the Boy Scout troops of 634, and she takes a hands-on approach to helping residents resolve community concerns and advocating for those in need. We appreciate the commitment and dedication she has shown to the residents across all of Baltimore County. Please join me in honoring Ms. Ani Pilastri as your 2023 Baltimore County Hero for District 4. Having served more than 40 years as a teacher for students with visual impairments at the Maryland School for the Blind and Baltimore County Public Schools, now retired, she mentors students and is actively involved with Space Camp for visually impaired students and the National Braille Challenge. A longtime Chesapeake Gateway Chamber of Commerce member, this community leader has spent countless hours supporting the Chamber's annual Secret Santa and serves as the chair on the Workforce Development Communities for the Christmas Angels Project for underserved and underprivileged students. She is a member of Baltimore County's Commission on Disabilities and is an active member of the Wilson Point Civic Community Association. Please join me in welcoming Miss Julie Gaynor as the 2023 Community Hero for District 5. We've got a big county, everybody. With a passion for keeping students active into sports programs, this community leader founded a nonprofit organization, the Tender Bridge, which provides a level of assistance in including equipment, transportation, and meals to help kids be active and engaged in community recreation and sports. The foundation also runs the Baltimore Banners and Junior Banners hockey team, a safe space for our at-risk youth to not only increase their chances of survival, but to become positive influences in their communities. Noel was the winner of the NHL 2022 Willie O'Ree Community Hero Award. Noel has worked hard to make a positive impact on his community and beyond. We congratulate Mr. Noel Auction on being named the 2023 Community Hero for District 6. Described as an incredible, humble, kind, and generous, caring person who is passionate about his community, this community leader in District 7 has helped spearhead the effort to revitalize Essex by lending a helping hand to pitch in and clean up vacant properties, streets, and alleyways. This community leader is no stranger to volunteering his time and has served on the Baltimore County's Code of Enforcement Improvement Work Group and worked hard hand in hand with our various community agencies to eliminate graffiti, trash, overgrowth in neighborhoods, and more. He is always keeping others in need and putting their needs ahead of his own. For advocating for change and support in his community, he volunteers at local schools and supports community charities and fundraisers. We are thrilled to announce Mr. Cliff O'Connell as your 2023 Baltimore County Community Hero for District 7. Thank you again to all of our community leaders who are submitted and continue to go above and beyond every day. We want to give a round of applause for our community heroes.
So congratulations again to all of our awardees today. Before we transition to our next presentation, I also neglected to also thank, Mandy mentioned this, but all of the staff and department heads who are here today, who are those who really do the work with all of you. So I hope that you, if you haven't had a chance to connect with folks that you want or need, they're all here. I'm really proud of the team that we have. We're only as good as the people that we surround ourselves with, whether it's in our organization or in county government. So thank you to the Baltimore County team, everybody, for your efforts and your service each and every day. With that, it is my pleasure to officially kick off the real work of the summit now today and the gathering, and I will be inviting up Momin Abukdir, who is Deputy Director of Government Reform and Strategic Initiative, and our Chief Data and Performance Officer. I believe he's coming up with Chief Adam Whitlock of our code enforcement teams. Momin and I recently co-authored an article on the use of stat and data and dashboards in governance. We were actually asked by State and Local Government magazine, an academic article. They reached out to Baltimore County because they wanted us to tell the story to the country of what we've built here. And so this discussion was just a glimpse of all the work that they do, but I think an important part of it. So certainly Momin and perhaps Adam, I want to welcome you guys up and wish everybody a great day today. Thank you all so much.
Good morning, everybody. As the county executive mentioned, my name is Momin Abukdir, Chief Data and Performance Officer, and I manage the BC Stat team, which is our data-driven team that deals with a lot of different special projects. And we have a stat program, which is pretty much recurring government meetings with various different stakeholders around data, and specifically data in action. It's not just presenting data for the sake of data, which no one wants to do. So, to get started, this may be the first community summit for some of you. For the ones that were here last year, I'll maybe say some things that I said at the past presentation, but I wanted to kind of set the context for the rest of this presentation. So at last year's presentation, what we talked about was how Baltimore County is data-driven. A lot of the different projects that we work on across county government, where we pretty much try to solve as many problems as possible, and we went through an entire list of those problems and how we tried to solve them through data. And at the very end of the presentation, we talked about a tool that would make the data accessible to the community, to nonprofits, non-governmental organizations, to residents, community leaders, to be able to have the same access to information that we do at Baltimore County government, because we do believe that that data belongs to you. Obviously, we can't share identified information because there's laws around that, but we do want to share as much as possible. And we have been sharing a lot on our website in terms of the public-facing dashboards, which if we have some time, I can walk you through some of those. But there is a table back there that has a BC Stat tablecloth, and we have the dashboards up. We have a lot of information over there. So please, if you have any questions or anything, just come back to that table after the presentation. So at the end of that presentation, we talked about creating a centralized tool that would allow everybody in the community to go in and be able to really assess what's going on in their community. And I want to kind of show how we got here, and then talk about, and I hope if this is a successful presentation, you'll leave this with your brain churning about different data that you'd like to see about your community and how we can and how to best use it in your communities and organizations. So all of this started when we started to analyze various different data sources, and the same places were popping up for the most part for different variables: opioid overdoses, crime, unemployment, whatever different variable we would look at, there would be certain trends that we would see, but the trends weren't the same. An area on the east side of the county was very different than an area on the west side of the county in terms of the priorities and the different things that communities were experiencing. And even within the east side and within the west side, there was a lot of nuances. And we were able to see that through the data, but the question was the community able to see all that and see how we are making decisions to allocate those resources, which I think is very, very important for us to be transparent about how the federal government, the state, and the county use that information to make decisions. So this is the American Rescue Plan map. So this is the general idea of how the federal government looked at Baltimore County and assessed disproportionately impacted areas in Baltimore County. So to your left, the map to your left, I guess the whole screen's on my right, but the map on the left side is what the federal government said was our qualified census tracts. So that is the area that they felt was underserved, disproportionately impacted, and socially vulnerable in Baltimore County, those small little shadings, and you can see there's a lot less shadings. That's based on census data, and what we did is we said that doesn't necessarily depict vulnerability in Baltimore County. There's so many more data elements other than income and poverty that should define whether an area needs additional resources. So we went back to the federal government with our own definition of vulnerability and said, this is really the individuals in these areas we need to serve for various different reasons, whether it was public safety concerns, behavioral health concerns, vulnerable housing, domestic violence, general social vulnerability, income, et cetera. So we included all that, and we were able to come up with that map, which was actually led to a meeting with the White House to explain the map because of the fact that it, we were one of the few jurisdictions defining our own vulnerability. So then the question, through that data and analysis, we're able to see that there's crime, public safety spots, and other different types of crime in different areas. So crime may be a really big issue in one area, but it might not be in another. It may be disconnected youth and youth that are just high unemployment. So that was one of the main reasons we wanted to create this tool. The other reason why we wanted to create this tool was because we had a nonprofit come to us and say, we just received the grant and we want to help use this grant to bring on new childcare licensed facilities in areas that need it. And so they didn't have access to the data, and they came to us, and we were able to create a map where we had low income, high populations of under the age of 5, individuals under the age of 5 kids, and where we had all of our childcare licensed facilities. And we were able to give them that information. Their reaction was very surprising because it was like a map of what they were looking for, just I guess is not the norm. And so we wanted to make that available, and we saw that as a really big, or really important thing that we want to continue to support for other organizations that don't necessarily come to us and ask us for information. So at the end of this presentation, please, I really want you to leave with understanding that we need to make this tool that we're going to present in a few minutes as valuable as possible to the community. So your input, we will have a survey. We really want you to tell us if there's data you'd like to see on there, if there's ways to make it more usable and accessible, and kind of the framework for how you think you would use that type of information. What would you use it for in your community? Because every single person here can leave and better understand the community with a tool like this. And again, we don't want you to have this information and do nothing with it, because again, data is useless if you don't do anything with it. So now I'm going to pass it on to Ricardo Majan, who is our senior data analyst with BC Stat, who's going to talk about why we chose the framework of social determinants of health when we created this tool. And I'll pass it on.
Thank you, Bowman. Buenos dias and happy Hispanic Heritage Month. I think we've all noticed that sometimes when we walk through the county, there are sort of these invisible barriers where we walk a few blocks and the neighborhood just changes. And research has shown that these invisible barriers sometimes determine life expectancy. You can cross a highway, and from one side you see opportunity and wealth, and on the other side, it's very much different. And this is what the social determinants of health are, and why we're passionate, and also what drove this project. So what are the social determinants of health? The social determinants of health are all the variables that surround an individual, where they were born, where they live, where they play, where they work, where they age. And they're going to determine the outcomes and, the health and quality of life outcomes, risks, the outcomes and risks that they're going to encounter through their lives. Now, we took a look at HHS Healthy People 2030 to see how to divide those domains, because different organizations define and categorize these differently. So you look at the little diagram that's on the left side of the screen. We see that they divide them into 5 main domains. It's health, education, economy, social and community, and neighborhood. Now, we use these as a guiding light as to how we're going to categorize them. But this begs the question as to why are these important? They're important because research does show that having access to a doctor and just code healthcare is just a very small fraction as to what's going to determine the health outcomes of an individual. And research shows that 80 to 90% of a person's health is going to be influenced by the environmental factors, social economic factors, and health behaviors that a person has and surrounds them. So these determinants are actually influenced by policies and programs. And this just gives government such a huge opportunity. The reason, because by focusing on good policy and good programs, they could change and improve the health of all its residents. And this is why we think it's such an amazing opportunity for Baltimore County to focus on these social determinants of health. Now, the goal of this program was to first map the social determinants of health. We identified 3 main benefits for this. One, it would help us identify and categorize and define the problems that we see through our regions. Second, we could provide indicators that could help guide interventions in our community, so it would see if they're working or if they're not. And third, create a data library, not only for our internal departments, for our community partners, who are the people who have better connection with boots on the ground with the residents and know what is occurring in our streets. The whole project went through very different phases. We started off first meeting with our internal partners. First, making them aware, trying to get alliances and partnerships, and telling them what we were planning to do. The second was one of the most interesting ones. We actually recruited different subject matter experts from all our different departments, because BC Stat is an expert in data, but we are by far not an expert in everything that revolves around economy, health, education, community, etc. So we brought in all these different stakeholders to get different perspectives as to what metrics they think they're important and what data was available in the county, because the county has a lot of data. Through these workshops, we did brainstorming activities in order to identify all these different metrics. We then started the data tracking, data processing, and map layer generation. We worked with our OIT department. We sat down with different subject matter experts to really understand the nuances and differences of our data to make sure that we were interpreting correctly. We also got together with data privacy experts in our county to make sure that the privacy of all our residents was secure. So BC Stat keeps a side on the data, but also keeps a side on the people. After that, we met with one of our vendors, Esri, to create an online tool. Here we met with experts in user interface to make sure that the tool was intuitive, to make sure that the tool worked and flowed correctly, to make it as good as an experience as it possibly could. And I think the current moment that we're at now, I think one of the most important is the community input, because you are one of the most important stakeholders, one of the stakeholders that we want to really get as much as they can out of this tool. We would like to get your input, your thoughts. How can we make it better? How can we make it serve your purposes? Lastly, we plan to go with an official launch by the end of the year, and obviously figure out how to do updates and maintenance, because this isn't just a program that we want to stay just for this year or the now. We plan for this to be something that outlives us, as something that gets updated, and when we get more data, it becomes even better. But speaking about layers, Momin, I know you wanted to talk about all the variables that we're considering, so I'll pass it off to Momin Abukdir, and I'll be right back.
So I wanted, for the individuals that weren't here at the last year's presentation, I'm going to talk about some of the data and the projects that we're doing in Baltimore County as we're going through the data that's going to be included in the social determinants of health map. So for the health domain, we have air quality, they're listed here. I'm not going to go through every single one, but the interesting thing about most of this data is that we discuss it in our internal stat sessions with the county executive and the various departments. So this data right here, these are all graphs and maps that were pulled from actual meetings where we sat down and had actual discussions and talked about interventions. So I don't want anyone to sort of walk away from here and think that this is the first time we're sharing this or anything along those lines. We have them within our department conversations, but we want you all to see what we're seeing. And so the interesting map right here is actually EMS calls related to falls. And we were looking at that information to see where the falls were happening. Obviously, you'd expect the major nursing homes and assisted living facilities, retirement homes, where things like that would occur. One of the interesting things that we also found was there was certain residential areas that had a large number of falls. And when we went in to investigate that, we were able to see that there were some illegally operating retirement homes and other things. So we had those conversations about how do we come in and make sure that those individuals who maybe can't afford, a licensed childcare facility for disability or seniors have the opportunity to at least have a safe environment, and obviously make sure that those places that weren't licensed either get licensed or get shut down. So that's just a general idea of like, this is what we're discussing in these stat meetings internally in government, and these are the questions that the county executive is asking and demanding the departments to do some form of action on. But we're making this data available. So some of the other ones, so for every domain area, there's gonna be 2 slides. There's gonna be one that we have data for, and the other one where we're trying to get data for, or we have it, but there may be some legal things that we have to work through. So as you're looking at this, I want you to think about the data that you'd like to see, data that might not be on here, because I'll just tell you and I don't wanna get too ahead, but in the education area, one of the cool layers that was suggested was, the locations of where individuals have library cards. Right? And that may mean nothing to someone, but it may mean a lot to others when you start to look at how those rates compare to disconnected youth that aren't in school and aren't working. So education, or disconnected youth. So this is a map of where we have disconnected youth. And again, that's defined by the census as individuals who are under the age of 18 that aren't working, aren't in school. It might actually be under the age of 21, but that aren't working, aren't in school, and you're able to kind of look at that information. You're able to see, how does that compare with crime? How does that compare with poverty? How does that compare with all these different things? And that's the purpose of this tool, to be able to you yourself dig into what's going on in your community, but then also be able to compare between different, maybe unrelated items or variables. Some of the other things we're working on with the school system I'm trying to get is, math scores, children who pass their kindergarten readiness assessment. So you will have that data hopefully by census tract. On the social and community side, we have crime. We have a crime public-facing dashboard already, right? But you have to go to that dashboard in order to get that information. This would bring that into the map itself. Children below poverty, household access to a car, various different data points. This is specifically for social and community relatives raising children, grandparents raising children, child protective services, adult protective services. So it has a bunch of data on there. For the neighborhood side, there's a lot listed here, and illegal dumping, ramp compliant sidewalks, traffic accidents. That's the map you're looking at right here. But where you see maybe high populations of people and where you see a large cluster of traffic, not accidents, crashes. And so that is what this map is showing. And at the last meeting, we were talking about some of the interventions we do during our transportation stat and that discussion around this data and things that we could do, especially identifying, what are the major corridors that have the most fatalities, et cetera, especially for pedestrians. On the neighborhood side, we have food deserts. This is actually something that's pulled directly from one of our stats where we actually had a discussion and identified the food desert areas, and then we identified all the different grocery stores, and then we identified the ones that actually accept WIC. And looking at where there is low income, a lot of people that are receiving public benefit, but there aren't necessarily grocery stores, and how we can use our Department of Economic and Workforce Development to go out there and try to either help them register for to accept that, or find other grocers to do so. Again, you'll see vacant houses. We'll come back to that. There's going to be a topic at the end where you're going to hear from the Chief of Code Enforcement about another way that we create new data and how we use that new data, but also like what is the full life cycle from using this information? Like how does the county use it to give you ideas on how you can use it in your communities as well? Median income poverty for economic. This thing is unpaid tax bills, so tax sale properties. One of the things that we looked at was if there was a correlation between tax sale properties and vacant houses, or if there was just individuals not paying their taxes, utilities, shutoffs, et cetera. So that's just some of the data that we looked at internally, but we hope to make that information by census tract available. So the general value of all this is that you'll have a comprehensive tool, right? Comprehensive map, I'll just call it a map, that you can look at any of this different data in your community and drill down and see how you compare to other census tracts, what does vulnerability look like, and what exactly are the major concerns or areas that government thinks is happening, going on in your specific area. And the reason we pick census tracts is because they're a lot smaller than zip codes, because zip codes are just way too big, especially here in Baltimore County. So I'm gonna now pass it back to Ricardo to walk you through the tool itself and explain what a census tract is for those who don't know.
Thank you, Momin. Show of hands, who knows what a census tract is? Okay, great. Well, let's just breeze through this, but a census tract, for those who do not know, it's a subdivision inside a county. Now, this slide is very jargony. You're welcome to read it if you would like, but to summarize, it's a subdivision inside the county that remains rather constant and only changes slightly between every census. Now, these subdivisions are tied a lot of times to a lot of statistical data, specifically about the census. So it allows different organizations to do further analysis, because we can tie it to amount of population, amount of income, etc. Population of these units are normally around 4,000, between 1,200 and 8,000, but sweet spot is 4,000. The reason we're using and breaking out information in census tracts are four main reasons. One, smaller components of the county, so it gives us like better resolution as to what's happening in different areas. Second, the availability of statistical data sets, which I already mentioned. It aligns how other academic and governmental institutions manage their data. And I think most importantly, and the reason why we're not breaking this by zip code, which is a lot more commonplace in our daily lives, is that these units do not go beyond county borders. In other words, state and county borders are census tract borders. So they will always remain within the county, which just allows for a lot less error, which is different when we do it with zip codes. So that said, let's delve into the tool. We're pretty excited to present the Baltimore County's Social Determinants of Health tool. As what you see here is our initial landing page. The landing page has different sections. The first section is going to be 5 cards that break out the 5 different domains of the social determinants of health. Each card is going to have below a few of the metrics that we want to highlight, sort of like the top favorites or the most iconic metrics. Users, nonetheless, will be able to have a button that the select source button, which will pop out a menu. That menu will show all the different layers that we have and will allow the user to browse through them. Also, the user will be able to filter by domain, so you can find what you actually need to find and interpret. Below those initial 5 cards, we'll also have a section that has a wider selection of our metrics. We expect, or we plan to have a lot of metrics. I think eventually this component won't display all of them, but just the larger section so users can see what's available. And right below that, we have a more resources where you can find BC Stats homepage. We are also going to highlight different dashboards that we've made. I think the one highlight at the moment is the traffic stops dashboard, but we'll also highlight our code enforcement dashboards, our opioid dashboard, among others, and future others that we're going to generate. Once the user selects a layer, it'll take them to a map view. The map view will basically show how that metric behaves through the different census tracts across the county. Now, users will be able to always go back to our landing page using the top left button, just clicking on our county logo. But users will also be able to select each individual census tract to get more information about that specific census tract. Here we were planning to display the different counts, rates, and other relevant calculations to get better information of what's happening in that specific region. Obviously, so for certain metrics and when it applies, certain values will be suppressed to protect data privacy. Users will still be able to access that select source button just like in the homepage. So if you want to switch between layers, users will be able to do so. All layers will be equipped with a legend to be able to easily interpret what is being displayed by the metric. I think also we put a section, an about section, that will give users a brief explanation as to what the metric is, give a general sense about the source, what it's measuring, to make sure that the user is informed of what they're actually seeing. But if the user also would like to get more detailed, more nitty-gritty technical information about the data source, where it came from, how we calculated it, we have the View Data button, which will send the user to a more technical site to get all that information. I think this is the last component for our tool, and I think one of the ones we are most excited. It's our compare tool. Users will be able to click that button that says compare in order to go to a comparison view. The comparison view is still being worked on. There might be some changes in the future. It's getting polished. Nonetheless, the comparison view will allow the user to compare at least 2 different layers and see how they differ across the county. Users will be able to use the menu on one of the sides to, 1, toggle on the swipe slider, and then select the layers that they want to be able to display on the map. And then be able to use the slider just to move left and right to see how it changes. And we're excited about this because a lot of the times we know these metrics interact with each other. They intersect and define larger and complex problems that we see. Because we know that the problems that the county faces and what we deal day to day is bigger than just one metric. It's the intersections of several. So this is what we wanted to do, be able to allow users to show that intersectionality between the metrics that they're interested in seeing. I think this is the entirety of the layer. We're excited. This has been a lot of work and a lot of good work that we put in. I think we're now moving to a live survey because we would love to have your impact, your input, to know how we can make this better, how we can make this serve you better. So I'll pass it on to Momin.
So you're all going to see a QR code, and that QR code is going to allow you to go online and see a specific QR. And then you're going to be able to answer some important questions where we want your input on. And please, as you're sort of going through these questions, think about you yourself in your current position in your current community organization. What would you like to see? Is it liquor stores? Is it libraries? Is it senior centers? Is it that, is it data around recidivism? Is it, whatever it may be, go ahead now and go to that QR code. And then I think there's the passcode, and then we'll go ahead and get started on the first question. But show of hands, is anyone struggling with this? Well, I guess maybe I should reframe that. Is everyone is there anyone, I don't know how to ask this question nicely. Does anyone need any help? Okay. She needs help. Yeah, I'm gonna start it in a sec. Yep. Mm-hmm. Oh, okay. So it's I'm sorry. I'm gonna press play. Yeah, it's I don't know how to do it. Okay. Sorry, I'm gonna do it one more time. I think the passcode is a 4046. Oh, N58. I'm sorry. I'm new to this. I apologize. I should have let Ricardo handle this portion. I'm sorry. Well, I'm really hoping based on what you saw in the screenshots, do you feel like the way that those screenshots looked, did it look like it made sense and it was easy to understand where to go in terms of the 5 different categories, and then being able to click down? And we know this question is, it's okay. It's okay. The other questions are more exciting. All right, we'll give this one maybe like another 10 seconds. This was meant to be an icebreaker. Okay. Are we good? Take your time. The N58 OSR. Okay. Okay. So for those who are receiving an invalid password, if you are receiving that, come see us at the table out back, and we'll be able to work through it. All right. Next question. Do you see value in this tool for your community? I expect 100% yes. But feel free to say, oh, there we go. Yeah, be honest. Be honest, please. Oh, unknown. It's nice. And if you are of that 1%, which is based on the counting of the room, it's probably one person, but maybe two. It's like 200 people here. Come see us and tell us why, please. And especially even the unknown. Thank you to the 93%. Were you able to easily understand the information presented on the map tool? And again, same thing. If you said no in this, please come let us know, give us that feedback. There is also going to be a question at the end that's going to ask for general feedback, so you could also put it in there. But please tell us as much as possible. We really, really want to make sure that we're not putting out something that no one uses. So it's very important to us that, if there's something we could do to improve it, data to add to it, even creating specific customized maps that have 2 layers that we know a lot of people want to see, like, I'm making this up, but like, crime and poverty, or whatever the case may be, whatever those preset, we can also do that as well. Okay. What areas of focus would you like to see depicted in this map? So we showed the slides that had like the different layers, the different data sets that we plan on including, but I obviously didn't expect any of you to read every single one of those. So yeah, perfect, there we go. Vandalism. So if you feel like there's a data point or something, an area of focus that you deal with in your community that you'd love to see data on, please go ahead and put it on. This is a really cool word cloud, so it'll, you could use up to 2 words. Well, if people are using 3, that's fine. It's a lot of crime, especially youth. But yeah, please. Thank you. This is great. Gas stations, that's interesting. This is amazing, thank you. Okay, we got vacancies, vacant area. We're going to talk a little bit about that at the end. Vacant buildings, overdoses, hate crimes, homelessness. Okay, food insecurity. Okay. Okay. Oh, there's a feature on the top that tells you how many people are typing. All right, I'll wait till that goes below 10. And the last part is just general feedback. So please, write an essay if you'd like, write a couple of points, something, but please everyone put something in that would be beneficial to this. And the presentation, and come back and give us feedback too. We're at that table, we really want that feedback. Hopefully in the presentation about code enforcement that you're gonna hear from Chief Adam Whitlock, you're gonna also be able to see how this data could really be used to kind of affect some form of change. Yeah, it's at 57. So when it gets to 10. We're pretty on time. there's going to come a day where one of you is going to be like, oh, this was interesting. And you didn't speak up. And then you're going to ask for that data, and it's going to be a PIA request. So take forever for you to get that data. So this is your chance. Sure. Yes, you will be able to download the data, but it'll be by census tract. So you won't have address level information, but it'll be by census tract. So it'll say this census tract has this percentage, or, yeah. And everything will be kind of based on the population. So obviously if there's a lot of incidents in one census tract, it's going to be normalized to that population. Yes, absolutely. Yeah, and you're actually going to hear about it when Adam, about the vacant housing. So it's going to really show kind of from start someone showing a problem all the way to what we do with it and then how we resolved it, and hopefully that'll spark some interventions that you all could do on the community, because the vacant housing I think is a good example of that. We also have we'll talk about the community sweeps in a sec. But if that doesn't answer your question at the end of the presentation, please come see us and we will make sure we'll show you all that. Okay, we're almost under 10 participants typing. 12. It's a great question. How often are you going to update this information? So some of this information, like the crime dashboard, it's an automatic pull every month, right? There's the code enforcement data, that's daily, even I think hourly, right? But there are some data sets that might be once every 2 years, once every year, that come from for example, if it's census-based information, that updates, when the census in the American Community Survey gets updated. So every data set has its own kind of update cycle. In the information tab that Ricardo was saying, where you can kind of get, I forgot the term you use, like nitty or something. But yeah, when you get into, there's a feature button that allows you to look at the source and really get into how often it's updated and whatnot. All right, we're at 4 participants. So I think we can close this. We've had, I think, about 97 responses, so thank you so much. And we will close this. Deactivate the poll. Okay. I do just, you didn't have a chance to live. Yeah, I think we have a couple minutes, so I just, it was one thing. I saw some confusion when we talked about the screenshots, so we could pull it up here and have Ricardo just kind of show it to you. It is a real thing. It's not just pictures.
So this is the first time we're showing this live demo, but I'll be quick. As I mentioned, you have the different sections that I mentioned at the beginning. The one that displays all 5 domains. Below are data sources, and after that, more resources that you would like to explore. If users click on just one of the layers, it'll immediately reroute them to the map for the specific metric that they selected. In that metric, users are able to zoom in, zoom out. Census tracts aren't as intuitive as zip codes, so this will allow users to find where they live or find landmarks to kind of locate themselves across the county. You have your legend right here that is going to explain all the symbology, both the color scheme and the size of the circles that will be displayed. Right-hand side, you have the about section, which just mentions what this information is about. This was pulled directly from the technical data from census. This is census data. If you click that view button, it will take you specifically to that public available layer from the census, which has the description, the current year of that information. This is using 5-year estimates. Also breaks down more like the codes of the tables, the downloads, and all the processing notes, etc. If users want to go back, select a different data source, you can pull up this, this menu, or you can, if you want to go back to the landing page, click that logo. It takes you back to the landing page. And lastly, our compare section. It might look a little bit different. Work is still being actively done. Right here, I think we deactivated the swipe at the moment. Again, we're working on some technical issues, but this would be the section where people will be able to compare how two metrics differ across the county. I think that is the quick overview and how we envision the tool to work. And with this, I'll pass it back to Momin.
So as you can see, I'm emceeing this event. We're going to bring up Adam in a second, and Adam is a testament to a department and a division chief who said, bring me the data and I'll do stuff with it. And it's completely all action. You can look at it, action. And it literally, everything that he's done is a testament to the hard work of the Permits Approval and Inspections Department and Code Enforcement. I'm sure you guys see him at community meetings often. And I really, this specific part, the first part about the community sweeps is more about how we create new data that didn't exist before to then upload that and make that beneficial to the community. And then on the vacant side, you'll get into what is the full life cycle of identifying a problem, looking at the data, providing interventions and solutions look like in Baltimore County government. And then the goal is for you to leave and be like, and apply that same framework to how you would use data in your community and organization. So with that, I'd like to hand it over to Chief Whitlock. Yes, it will. And we can talk at the table, and I'm going to tell you exactly the data sets that we even currently have right now that we can provide. Absolutely.
All right, everybody. First, let's be honest. How many people were looking to see how many liquor stores were in their area? Did anybody else catch on that? It's a judgment-free zone, so don't be worried. So thanks again to Momin and his team, and for everybody being here. I think over my time in code enforcement, I've been to probably hundreds of community meetings. I see a lot of familiar faces, and it's great to just have everybody in the same room and to be able to talk about this stuff. I think my role here, or my part here, is to show how this data is used in an actual agency, and an agency that directly impacts your neighborhoods. So that's what we wanted to do today. I can tell you that this data that is up here is being all put together, but we've been using data similar to this from Momin and his team for quite a while now. And there's probably not a day that goes by that we don't look at this type of data, analyze it, so we can try to get out into the communities and put our resources where they need to go. So between that and the input that we get from a lot of your the different emails or community meetings that we do with you, we hope that we are better equipped to address the needs in the community. So we'll go on to the first slide here. So for those that don't know what a community sweep is, it's when we send a group of inspectors into a geographic area, neighborhood, your communities, and we will look at every property that's there. We're looking at the exterior, and we're looking for code and zoning violations. Before having the sweep tool that Momin and his team and our OIT department put together for us several months ago, we would go into communities, and the only thing that was tracked was how many notices or citations we would issue. And that's good. We want to know that. We want to know the problem properties, and we continue to keep all that data. But there are thousands of properties that are looked at and inspected for those brief few minutes that never got counted, or at least analyzed to know that we've looked at them, and when was the last time they were inspected, were there violations, and whatnot. So you can see from this slide here, there was, since we've had this up in July, there are 13,000 additional properties that have been inspected on community sweeps that would never necessarily been known that they were inspected. So we go into the community, go through walk through, inspect each property, and we issue notices and citations for various code and zoning violations. Those sweeps are usually based on a few things. The first thing is working with the communities, right? You request the sweep, we'll come out, we'll put you on the schedule, we'll come out and do the sweep. We'll work with you with some of the data that we get back. The rat eradication neighborhoods, that's part of it. Part of sweeps are part of that as well. The reason behind that is we go in and we exterminate in these neighborhoods, but we also want to make sure that we are trying to control the food source. So I know a lot of communities with trash pickups and with the enforcement to look for trash and things of that nature, that helps us control the food source with the participation of, obviously, residents. As the slide says, it's about an average of 6,000 addresses inspected each month. The other thing this tool does is help us decide where these resources need to be deployed and our internal resources that need to be applied to it. So we have increased our number of inspectors, right? And we use this kind of data to say, where are we getting the most complaints? Or in this situation, where are we seeing the most calls for service? Do we need to go in and do these proactive inspections? So hopefully, at some point in time, they don't end up, the neighbors don't feel the need that they have to call because it's already being addressed, or call you, or email you, or ask you what's going on. So this data is really useful in that. The next part of it that we do here is we analyze the data that we get, right? So we can go in and we can see specific areas that we've done these sweeps in. What are some of the problems that a community has in? I think Mohamed alluded to earlier in the presentation that not every community is different, which is why it's important for us to get out into the communities and speak with everybody, because what is a problem in your community may not be a problem in another community, and we don't want to just put a blanket method or process behind it. So we take this data and we're able to look at it and see what are the issues, what kind of resources do we have that we can put into the community, and that's this kind of data that helps us. What's up on the screen now is the citations that are issued for various violations. The next slide here is pretty much the same. Those are just for correction notices. Some violations the county code allows us to go straight to a citation for, especially if you've had the violation before, and then other codes and laws require us to issue a notice to the owner first. But both of those are analyzed in these sweeps. This proactive sweep dashboard is what I was referring to. This is something that's been up and running for quite some time now, and it will be part of this new dashboard that has been explained today. But this is what I use all the time. All right, and this is what is going to help us moving forward. Okay, so what you're going to see up there, that 45.18, that is the number of violations per 1,000 units inspected. And then we're also going to be able to see the percentage of units, and I say units or properties, but units in Baltimore County that have been inspected on a sweep and a proactive inspection. And that's really the direction we're trying to go. As an enforcement agency, just like any enforcement agency, we're always going to be complaint driven, right? But we want to be able to take our resources and get out and do a more proactive approach so that these issues can be handled sometimes before they even reach your phone or your email or even the neighbors having to do that. So this is what helps us see where we've inspected and what the impact is when we're out there. And this is just another same example. It's just if you drill down on it, we're able to see, and we can go right down to a neighborhood and see the last time we've inspected, how many of the homes were inspected, how many of them received citations or notices, and then we also compare this with other data. Has the same house received citations over and over again? For those that don't know, I've been with code enforcement for 17 years, and I can tell you in the past couple of years with data like this, we have made tremendous strides in trying to be able to devote resources, and I hope at some point in time those strides they're visual, right, and they can be seen. We have a lot of people that care about what they do, and I encourage people to take advantage of what was presented to you today, because I can promise you on an agency level this is used, and I'm sure that'll be countywide. Somebody had a question?
Do you ever run across problems maybe you can't just, yeah.
Yep, no, and
resolve it.
you are completely right on that. So I often say that so our goal is compliance, right? That's what we want. We want people to be in compliance. But I often say that there are more than one way to gain compliance, right? So at the end of the day, we'll always be an enforcement agency, but other ways to gain compliance is through education, right? Educating people before it becomes an issue. We have a lot of people that come into the county, and whether they're renting or a new homeowner or whatever it may be, they don't always know their responsibilities because it's different in other jurisdictions. And then to your point, you know, what is the challenges that are going on there? I mean, some of our stuff is minor in terms of, I mean, it's a pretty cut and dry. It's trash not in a can with a lid, right? But there are other things. There are mental health challenges, financial challenges. So we have really worked with a lot of different departments and agencies within Baltimore County to try and connect people. And that's something that's really important to us. And we want to listen, right? When somebody gets a notice or a citation and they call us, we want to find out what's going on. Again, there's still a deadline, but is there something out there that we can do to help? So yeah, that was an excellent question and an excellent point. So, yes, sir.
Can you speak to or answer the question about reasonable expectation for whether for inspectors coming out? So we put something through the county system, through the app. How long does it take to get an inspector to come out? What's the reasonable expectation for wait times, or does it depend on the issue?
Yes to all that. I mean, it's usually 24 to 48 hours, business hours, are when we are out there. Now, that's for a run-of-the-mill cookie cutter type of possible violation. We do livability complaints, right? Where we receive a complaint, it's for in the interior of a structure from a tenant. You know, we have to schedule that. We, you know, maybe there's a scheduling conflict, or there's other more complicated cases, maybe a site plan violation for zoning. We have to do some research. So sometimes the stuff that's online can be misleading because it says inspection schedule and you're like, I filed the complaint a week ago. We have worked with OIT to try to get that updated so we can be transparent and you can just go online and look to see what is going on. You're always welcome to call or email us, but I don't want you to feel that you have to. I want you to feel that the information you're getting is correct. So, but yeah, it's usually about 24 to 48 hours.
Good morning, Adam.
Good morning.
Thank you very much. And for anybody sitting here also, we have interacted with code enforcement effectively, and we're very, very grateful for their response. However, one of the things that is pertinent to us is we are in a far west, very rural area of the county, and so what would be a preemptive sweep for us is very different than it would be for the more intensely developed areas. So my question is, do you frequently update or do you regularly update what your inspectors look for when they do a preemptive sweep? For instance, we now have several solar facilities which violate code depending on the level of upkeep and so on. We have illegal businesses and structures that don't appear illegal but are because of where they are. Can your inspectors include that?
It can, but
Thank you.
the thing with sweeps, and like I think you and I had talked in my office one day, we talked about that sweeps aren't for everywhere, right? There are certain areas where there are challenges that just going through and looking. When you go through a row home community that has, that the houses are all there, you can see into all the yards. It's obviously a lot more logistical to be able to do it that way. When you have communities that are, like you said, far north or west, and they have properties that have acres upon acres, or they're usually handled better on a case-by-case basis. And I think that that we just need to work with residents and community leaders to get that figured out. Yeah, and we have community leads, lead inspectors that we developed about a year ago for each district, and I would encourage that we can get you in touch with somebody that and we can find the best way, what resource would best suit you. Momin put a buzzer in my pocket and said that he's going to buzz me when I have to stop in my Lagos.
No, so there will be an opportunity for questions at the end. There will be. I just wanted to make sure that we got through this part of the presentation because I do feel like this is the part that's going to make it all come together. So we will come back for questions. And again, if you don't, the tables are out there and all of those questions, there's a code enforcement table. Adam will be there, right, Adam? Um, so I'm just going to quickly go through this portion, but I do really want everyone to sort of take a look at this. Is the ideal example of how you would use this information, how we use this information, and when it actually becomes action. So, you know, historically speaking, we've had about, over the last 3 years, a code inspector goes out or gets a complaint, they go out, they find a violation, they notice that there's nobody living at the house, they do a little check, it's an eye test, and then they look for different things, mail or broken windows, etc., and then they just put a notation in the system that this property is probably vacant. And that's just a data source that we have. It's not official, it's not shared. We just kind of internally review it. So that was about 1,000 properties over the last 3 years. And we know there's a lot more than 1,000 vacant homes in Baltimore County. So what we decided to do at that point, because we were getting a lot of sort of complaints and interest about vacant properties that were falling apart, that were, you know, a nuisance property, whatever the case may be, we decided to do an analysis. So we took a bunch of different data layers, right? We had where there were utilities shut off, where there were tax sale, where there was zero water consumption, repeat code violations, all of those different data sets, which are data sets that will be on the map. We looked at those to be able to identify the areas that we thought had a higher likelihood of vacant properties. Then Adam's team went out and validated and did their thing, and we were about 50% right, which creates other problems, right? Which means you have people living places that don't have access to water, and obviously those individuals will then get referred to other sort of services. But the idea was that the data wasn't perfect, and we knew we could not just rely on just the data by itself without the boots on the ground to determine if a property was truly vacant, right? And so at that point, you know, we got together a little, not a little, it was actually a lot of people that are in this room, but got together as a vacant work group, right? We got together, we talked about, you know, not only is it important to identify these, we need a mechanism to identify them where there's an official list. So we had legislation passed recently, I believe it was in April, that actually allowed us to now begin tracking and having a real inventory of vacant structures. And, you know, then the question is, what do you do with that information? And so, you know, I'm gonna now pass it back to Adam. He's gonna go through how we address these vacant structures that we're now identifying, what is in our registry, and then he's gonna have a plea at the end. And then after all that's done, we're gonna open it up again for questions.
All right, so vacants. It's probably one of my favorite topics to talk about, and it's I mean that legitimately because we've spent quite a while working on this vacant inventory project, and there have been so many people involved, from county citizens to other agencies to Momin and his team, and this was really important. And the reason for that is because a lot of times when you call our agency, you're calling to tell us there's tall grass, there's junk, there's a broken window, and we can come out and deal with that imminent situation, you know, go through the legal process. The house is still vacant, and we all know that the grass is going to grow again, and the window is going to get broken again. What can we do with that? How can we try to solve the main issue that's generating those symptoms of a vacant? So, coming up with the vacant property inventory was critical. The legislation was passed, and then we got to work with putting together a business process as well as the computer process. So as Momin said, we'll go out. You can file a complaint about any property. It's, you know, the grass, whatever it may be. We go out and we do the enforcement just like normal. The difference is now is that you're required to, as an inspector, use your professional judgment based on a list of criteria through training, and to determine if you believe that it's vacant, right? And you have to mark it as either vacant or occupied. And if you mark it vacant, you have to put it into a tier, okay? And there's 3 tiers. So we will go through so back on this one. So tier 1, right? Tier 1 means you go out, whatever the complaint may be, you go out and then it's vacant, but there's no violations. It's just vacant. Maybe it's a house for sale, maybe it's a snowbird that went to Florida for the winter, or whatever it may be. But we still want it on our list as being vacant. Tier 2 are going to be probably 85, 90% of the ones that we get. Those are, it's vacant, but there's code or zoning violations, right? So the grass, the broken window, the trash, whatever it may be, those come in. And then tier 3 are the, oh no, the ones that are, look like they're gonna fall over. They have dilapidated, the building has issues, building issues. And those are the ones that we want to make sure that we really focus on. So to give you an example of some of those, these would be some of our tier 3 properties. We have, they're on the inventory, and they're going to get inspections, and they're going to go through a process. Part of that process is what's good about this inventory and the business process that we've come up with is they're put into a tier, but as soon as they're marked vacant and they go on this inventory, there is it goes through a whole administration process. And that is, we will take these and we will research them. We've gained access to multiple different systems, but we're going to look into, find out if it's in foreclosure. If it's in foreclosure, we have a database that tells us who the bank is. If there's a management company for the bank, direct contact with them. Is it in tax sale, right? Can we reach out to the tax sale purchaser and find out what's going on? Where is it in that process? Is there some kind of intervention that the county can do? Is it in an estate, right? Sometimes the owners die and the family fight over the house for years, and it sits in estates and courts, but point of contact is key, and that's what we want to do. The next good thing about the inventory is that if it's on the inventory, it will automatically get an inspection every 3 months, regardless if there's complaints or not. What they'll do is the inspector will go out there. They will see, they'll make their judgment, is it still vacant? And they will take any enforcement action that's needed. They would, write it up for the grass or whatever it may be. Keep in mind, you can still file the complaints, even if it's on the vacant inventory. Don't feel that you gotta wait for that inspection. This is just something to be able to go out again and do something proactively. And with these tier 3s, we have some examples back there, but this is one of our most recent ones. This was on the east side of the county. It was, as you can see, the house on the left there, or part of the house on the left, had some real issues. This was one, it was owned by a company, but the owner had passed away, and it was a long challenge to be able to get legal authority to do this, and we're working on some processes for that. But after a while, we were able to, as you can see on the right, the county went in and raised the house. And it's just, that's what it looks like today. So not every house is eligible to be raised, right? There's different regulations and different legal strategies that you have to take. But again, getting in contact with owners, keeping track of these, using these on this dashboard that Moment and his team has presented to be able to see if there's correlation between various, different other social issues going on in your neighborhoods. And the last thing is that we want to make sure that everybody knows that you can report a house just for being vacant. Okay, there doesn't have to be a code or zoning violation. If you want to, you can call it into our office. It's going to be up and live on the app in the very near future. Call 311. Everybody is prepared, and you can just call and say that it's vacant. And although it's not a violation to be vacant, it'll go in, we'll send an inspector out and do what I call a wellness check. See if there's any violations that need to be written up, and then we will put it on the inventory and get to work on it. And I want people to feel that we take these very seriously. There's no, and from a legal standpoint, there's no time frame. I mean, I'm going to paraphrase because I don't have the definition in front of me, but sorry.
We're at questions.
Okay. Yeah. So, I'm going to paraphrase, but legal just basically, or vacant just means unoccupied, right? And there's different factors that we look at to see if it's what we feel is unoccupied. The other thing is, I forgot to mention, once you're designated on the list, you're verified to being vacant, we send the owner a vacant designation letter and any other contact that we can get. So if it's in foreclosure, a bank, a tax sale, that you've been put on the vacant designation letter. Here's some of your responsibilities from a code enforcement and a neighborhood stance. So we want to be proactive and try to get as involved as possible. I think it had.
We have 2 mics going around, and we'll make sure we run them around so I can
Who had? Yep.
We've got one on each side. Make sure your questions.
Is the dashboard that you were showing, is that up and running now?
The one that was shown earlier.
The code enforcement
Yes, oh yes, the code enforcement one is
How
up
do
and
we
running.
get to that?
Table in the back will direct you to it.
Yeah, and once you get to the site, you can access that at any time. Who had the next mic? Right over here. Okay, sorry.
Thank you. It says on the flyer the social determinants of health are coming soon. When is that coming soon? Do we know?
That would be a moment question. Before January 1st.
Okay, that's wonderful. And my other question was, based on the census tracts, are there any maps or general maps of poverty across Baltimore County? Because if we had a heat map based on poverty levels, that could be on SNAP data, which is available from the state, or it could be on, incomes, household incomes, then that would be a wonderful comparison to do with all of those other maps that you have of these various issues and problems in the county, because there often is a direct correlation between an area of poverty and many of these issues that you were mentioning, and especially for, working on schools and education. It's really important to see where is food insecurity, where, all of those other things. Is that possible?
So the reason we created this tool is because we couldn't find it unless we went and downloaded data ourselves, put it together, needed like someone really smart like Ricardo, not me, to do it and analyze that information. So that's the reason why we created this tool. So the short answer is there's not like a centralized place that would allow you to do that unless you went to specific different data sources, downloaded the information.
I'll show you this map later.
Yeah, no, I'm sure it exists because someone created it, is what I'm saying. This would allow you as the public to create your own map, and anyone can create it without any GIS skills.
Okay, we'll talk. Thank you.
Yep. Yes, ma'am.
You have the vacant for housing. Is there any plan to do vacant for retail? Because those of us that are working on commercial revitalization think that could be a real telltale of what retail areas need economic development help.
And that's actually my fault. I should have clarified that. So this is a vacant structure anywhere. So it can be commercial, it can be residential, it can be any of that.
Oh. Hi, I'm Dave Patro, President, North Point Village Community Association. I have a question that may affect everybody. First off, Adam, thank you for what you do. And
Thanks, Dave.
my concern is when you have a rental property, I got 1,000 homes. To look up the landlord is outrageous, to look up one. Is there going to be a network that you have that you can give out to the communities that are certified of the owners so I can contact them right away? And then the two questions would be, one of them is, will you ever outlaw the trash bags? That seems to be one of the biggest problems, because once they put the cans on the lid with the trash cans, that's no problem. But when they put the trash bag outside the can, they just get crazy on it. And one suggestion would be, if you could network with BG&E when they shut the power off at the house, you would know. So then you know if they're in disarray to get help, or somebody just left the house, because we have a lot of homeless people go into them, put drums in there and start fires. So.
Yeah, we've worked on things with BG&E, to try to get a hold of them. I got trouble getting a hold of them for my bill. I mean, let alone the, to see if we can network. I mean, they're a private entity, but we do have a relationship that we have started to really build with them, and that's a big thing. I mean, that's usually if there's no electric, a lot of times there's not going to be that. In terms of the putting the trash out, I mean, obviously they need to go in cans with lids. Getting the cooperation of the community is, as you know, somewhat difficult. I think through enforcement and education, the new trash cart situation that's going on with our help from DPW, I think that we're moving in a really good direction for that. And the rental, getting the information, that's probably going to be a PIA request, but Dave, you and I can get on about that offline and see if there's something. There's a legality to it, but I can find out how much information can be readily available. Any more questions for Momin?
Yeah.
Oh, two questions. One is for the code enforcement. I think the problem with, or an issue that's going on, is you have to put in your name and address, I guess, when you file a complaint.
Not no more.
Oh, not anymore?
No,
'Cause
nope. We actually just met last week with our folks from 311 who handle the online complaints, the portal for that.
Yes.
And code enforcement had the main manufacturer for the system that operates that
Yes.
required that. They took that off.
Thank
So
you.
code enforcement kind of volunteered to be the guinea pig to see how that works, because I
Thank
understand
you.
that a lot of people like to remain anonymous, and I
Yes.
don't want them to. Yeah, I don't want them to feel that they have to give their information.
Right.
Just to that, we do not give that information out. Somebody could come into our office and look at the file, and we have to show it to them. But we do not tell them over the phone. We do not tell them out in the field. And if you file it anonymous, I can tell you it's completely anonymous. I don't even have the information to give out. So, yep. But
The second question is for the social determinant. Thank you for all that information and the data, but when's gonna be the time that you're going to do something with that data?
Yeah, so that's why I was showing, you can clap. That's why I was showing sort of those examples, those maps, as I was going through the different data variables. We're already touching all that information. The reason we're even able to create this map is because we've already analyzed all of it already. So we have quarterly, well, really we have a meeting every week on one of 13 priority areas, whether it's transportation, neighborhood, sustainability, workforce. We have 13 different areas. We meet every week, but we meet on each topic every 3 months. And the county executive in the room, the county administrative officer, the deputy administrative officers, and the department heads. And Adam and neighborhood stat all the time. And we're looking at these maps, we're creating those maps for those meetings. We just then decided, let's bring those specific maps out to the public.
I think she's got one more part to it.
I mean, are you gonna take a specific area and say, okay, let's concentrate on, Randallstown? Where's the data for that, and this is what we're gonna do?
Yeah, so
How's that gonna happen?
we actually had 2 community meetings already with Woodlawn and over in Dundalk. So we had one at the police precinct in Woodlawn, and then we had one where we actually shared this information. It was kind of a pilot to see what's important to them, what they would like to see. But those efforts are happening now, place-based initiatives, et cetera. So that's exactly right.
Gregory, I'm with St. Helena. My question was, you had made a comment that you would notify the house owner or anything that was a house that needed attention. But can you also notify the community leader where that house is located, so we don't have to keep doing the work you're already doing?
Sure. Yeah. It doesn't put addresses on there, right? For the vacant.
No, it'll be by census tract.
We can work on that, because that would be helpful, right?
Yeah,
And
I mean, because like I'll look up a house, but you might already be sending a letter, and I won't know what you're doing.
Sure.
So if we can speak to each other, I think, and everybody in this room would agree, that would be very helpful.
So our code enforcement dashboard actually will allow you to go in, not necessarily if it's vacant, but if it's vacant and has another violation, like you complained about the trash and whatever, you could search any address in Baltimore County and get an entire list of all of the different violations and the resolutions for all of those right now publicly on the website, and we can show it to you.
I get that, but I'm saying, as soon as you send out a letter, why don't you send that same letter out to the community leader, so that way they're on top of what you're doing, instead of us having to go to a website and look.
well, and maybe with the letter, maybe compiling a list and giving monthly updates or something of that nature.
That would be good, once a month even.
We should
Yeah.
talk offline, and let's see. I mean, those are good ideas, and that's why we're here, right? I mean, to
Okay.
hear these kind of ideas, and so that's a good point, because we appreciate the work that you do as well. You save us a lot of time.
I have 2 questions, because in a particular block in our neighborhood, there are people in that block that park 2 cars in a driveway.
I told you he was smart.
They park 2 cars in a driveway that the cars don't fit. And usually half of the car is sticking out into the street. And I've seen that at like 5 different houses in that same block. So who's responsible for that? Are the police responsible for that, or you're responsible?
Yeah, something like that, you can call the police. Then
Okay.
they'll come out same
Okay.
day and deal with it. There's different regulations for blocking the county right away and then the street.
My
and
other
how you have to
question
park.
is, there's a guy who must own a trash collection company, and he has a giant open truck that he goes and collects all his trash, and then this giant truck is sitting on his driveway, maybe for days at a time. So is he supposed to do that, or he's supposed to have somewhere to take that truck?
If it's,
It's open.
there's a couple other variables that would play in that, and we can, when we get out of here, we can talk if you want. You can see me at the table, but there's, if there's trash in there, they certainly can't
It's
do
trash,
that.
full of
Like
trash.
actual like garbage,
Yes.
you know, and then if they're using the truck for commercial purposes and it meets the definition of a commercial vehicle. Again, there's some other variables, and I'm happy to help you with that when we
Okay.
get out of here. Just come
Okay.
by and see me, okay?
All right.
Thank you.
A two-part question, and I'm going to apologize in advance. So the easy one is the trash cans. I know everyone's excited to get these new trash cans, and I'm hip to everyone's excitement, but I am not hip to having to educate or close your lid type thing. Like that should be an adult thing. You close your lid. And so when specifically the row home people, you know, they've got some problems, and their problems are not whether we have trash cans or not. No one's putting their lids on. So I always feel like people don't really pay attention to you hit them in the pocket. And so like, are those violations going out to those neighbors, and are they paying these tickets? Because that's the only way I can think that they would stop.
Yeah, yes, I mean, they're cited, right? Whether it's on a sweep or it's through a complaint or whatever. Keep in mind with the trash cart program, it's run through DPW, so I don't want to necessarily punt the ball to them, but I'll give you as much information as I can. They did a pilot with the trash carts. So two of the biggest factors that we get when somebody comes into a hearing and we've issued them a citation, right, is I can't afford a new can because my can goes missing or it's broken, whatever it is, or I bought my can and the lid went missing, right? So what we did was work with DPW, and some neighborhoods have a second pickup, but those same challenges exist whether you pick it up once a week or 10 times a week. So they rolled out a pilot program for the trash carts. So the county gave you a can, right? So you didn't have to purchase it. And then the county made it to where the trucks were required to be able to take the can with a lid attached. So now your lid doesn't go missing. They had some success with it, and now, as a lot of people in the room know, they've started to expand that. I can't comment how much, what the next step is after that, because I don't know.
I'm not questioning that process. I'm questioning.
But they still have
So
to
how
put the
much
lid
more
on.
can you complain if you have a new trash can and a lid that's attached?
Sure, and that's so when we see people coming in for their hearings, because we've issued them a ticket, right? A $300 citation.
Yep.
The ALJs are going to know that this is part of a program where you were given the can and you have a lid attached to it. So that excuse is kind of out the door. Now, that doesn't mean that everybody's going to put their lid on it, but we have seen good success in the neighborhoods that it was originally rolled out on, where we've gotten less violations because they had the can with the lid and they were shutting it. So.
Well, I'm just going to tell my community to just go to their neighbors and tell them to use their trash cans properly. I mean, I don't think there's education that needs to be involved. But, okay, so my second question. So this process of the vacant houses, I get it, right? But there's a lot of vacant houses that don't have liens on them, and owners are dead, and I know for a fact there's no way you're getting in touch with the next of kin. So what about those properties? And is there a list that you're able to give to the public, like sell them?
Yeah, so yes, I mean, so that goes back to diving into the different systems, right? So maybe the owner's dead, they don't have liens on the property, somebody's paying the property tax. Who's paying it, right? Can we get access to that information? If they're not paying it, then it needs to move forward in a tax sale process, right? When you don't pay your taxes, the county has a system in place to put it up for tax sale. Now the tax sale process is long, right? So if it's sold in tax sale or there's a purchaser, can we connect with them So when I say those letters, you're right. These letters go out on deaf ears a lot of times. But where is the next point in line where we can contact somebody else that has a vested interest in it?
So there's no secret that the supply and demand right now for housing and investors soon be included.
Yep.
Why not chop that entire process in half and sell these things without having to go to a tax sale and give the next of kin a substantial amount of money and get it over with?
I agree, and we've been working with the DHCD department. Unfortunately, there are laws that prevent the county from just necessarily taking it over and selling it. But we are looking into different ways. I wish it was like just as simple as that. You haven't done it.
I think there's a proactive way to reach out to most of these next of kins that are probably hungry for money.
Sure.
And if it was an opportunity, hey, I'll give you $100 grand for this shell, I'm pretty sure that they'd be willing to do it.
What I've seen in a lot of those is, yeah, I would take the $100 grand, but my brother that lives in Carolina is fighting me in court. I mean, there's just so many variables.
I guess there's a potential connection that you guys need to make with a real estate agent that can be proactive and reach out to these families and get these things moving.
Yep.
I mean, they're just.
I mean, that's the goal with the vacant
I got
inventory.
I'm a realtor also. So I've got investors that are like, dude, what's going on with that property? It's a burnout. How many tickets do they need to get? I'm like, no kidding. I wish I could get it. I wish I could take your money.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, and I know that these guys are going to rebuild them and give us a good neighbor in the process.
Yeah.
It cancels everything.
Yeah, I mean, and the goal is to not just know that it's vacant, but it's to get it out of vacancy. So that's the end up goal.
If you need help volunteering on putting names and families to these addresses, call me.
Sorry, so two more questions.
Okay.
The boss said two. Where's speaking?
I'm here. Over here.
Hello.
Hi. Thank you guys for this presentation. Adam, you mentioned previously that some notices will be raised to citations. And a young lady just mentioned something about the $300 for the trash cans with no lids. So how many notices does it take for it to raise to a citation, or are they two separate things?
So when we go out on a sweep, something like trash cans without lids, the county code allows us to issue that $300 citation. On a regular complaint, we go out. When I say you get a notice, it's a correction notice. So what happens is you're told you have to correct the violation by a certain amount of time. We go back out and check. If you haven't, then you get a citation. There's and again, we can talk about some of these things at the table if you want. We have an escalating penalties process where if you're getting citation after citation and it's not getting your attention, we can file for some criminal charges in the form of an injunction. So there's a lot of different steps that could be taken, but it would be a lot to explain right now. But I'm always happy to have that conversation either at the table or at a community meeting or even just one-on-one for a phone call.
I think you should invest in the opportunity of public broadcasting services announcements to let the general public know what you do and what you do not do, because so many people, when they receive these notices, they're retaliatory. They know just about, who in the community cares enough to show a visible, fight or battle to combat the blight that you've caused as a code violation person. The second thing is, for 23 years I've been a resident in Liberty Manor, but I've been accustomed to going to Randallstown because my son played with the Liberty Road Royals back in the 70s. At that time, we had a homeless hub on Brembrook and Church Lane called Norris Avenue. We've been to our council person, we've been to our delegate, Adrian, we've been to many higher tier offices, and this homeless hub has continued to exist. Nobody's budging on raising those 2.5 houses now because the homeless people have basically annihilated the third house. They're all vacant, and they're down in Norris Lane at the circle at Brembrook and Church Lane. It's a horrible scene down there, okay? So can you help us in that community with Norris Lane?
Mandy can.
And we're going to take one more question over here, and then I know Dr. Dorsey, I believe you had your hand up too, and then that will be our final question. So we can, and I think you all are the ones who have these addresses, right? We need them. We need to know where they are. And I know, in the past we've done one-offs and you've sent an email and said, this house has tall grass or this, but what we're asking for is for you to put together those houses and those addresses in your communities. Send them to Adam, send them to me, send them to your district coordinator, and make sure to say, hey, these need to get on the list of vacant houses. We'll send them, we'll make sure we get them over, they can verify, and we'll address them too. And then again, if there's something extra, we can always send it to the right agency, the police department. But we've got to take action on these. And you know what? 23 years is a very long time, and I know many of us as the outreach coordinator team, we've been dealing with these homes that, we're in the community now. So we are hearing, this house has been vacant. I've been saying something about it for 20-some years. Now we have Chief Whitlock and we have Momen in our administration that are doing something because the county executive said we have got to take action on these vacant properties. So we're here, we want the addresses, send them as you get them, as you go out there and you see, or if you're even curious, send them to us and let us investigate in them. So I'm gonna kick it over to you, and then one more for Dr. Dorsey here.
Hello. I represent the Latino communities in Baltimore County, and I want to bring that most of us, all this work is new to us, and we have a fast-growing Latino community in the whole Baltimore County. So my question is, I thank you guys for all that you put together, and I know it is already a challenge for you, but is there a way that we can start getting all that in Spanish so we can start including our community and start explaining to them?
Yeah, and so we actually, Ricardo, actually took the opioid dashboard he created, and it is in Spanish. It's the only one that is in Spanish right now. But if you let me know how you'd want us to prioritize which dashboards, because it does take a lot of time to translate them, let us know which ones you feel like, come meet us at the table, let us know, and that'll be the next one that we translate. And then we'll have a list and we'll go through. But the plan has always been, and especially we had conversations with Juliana, who is our immigration coordinator, that we've had multiple conversations about making our stuff more accessible to Spanish-speaking individuals. So thank you for that question.
And the county website also translated fully into Spanish. I know from just our perspective in our agency, we have put all of our material in Spanish as well. So there's different resources, but you're right. I mean, making sure that people know how to get to those resources. So thank you for that.
Last question.
Testing. Okay, there we go. Good morning. Thank you again for all the information. My only question I have, it's wonderful in terms of accountability and empowering. My only concern is, I know that you mentioned that a part of the data you collect, you're working with external sources. One part that took me, I want to use for example, is that you talked about data and education, the statistics, the achievement, the levels. If all of this information is on the website, will it be clear that the data you're collecting is not superseding the Board of Education in the Baltimore County public school system or in any area? And in addition to that question, we want to make clear that this forum is not excluding the other agencies, the other external people that oversee these areas, from law enforcement to public education to the NAACP, that are fighting these efforts on the ground, and that they should still reach out and work within a community with these organizations as it relates to the data and on the ground solutions.
Yeah, so to answer the first question, so all of the education data, some of this was mostly census, but we already, when Ricardo was talking about kind of convening the subject matter stakeholders, BCPS wasn't. So a lot of the data that we pull is all completely from BCPS. To answer the second or address the second question, so the reality is, this is information for us, right? We have no real context outside of where I live, right? And it's Baltimore County, but where I live is the only experience that I have, and I'm not a community leader in that area. I think the person who stood up that was in Granite is. But so the idea is that I just want to point out that we can't do anything with this information without those specific associations. So, part of it is knowing where they are, connecting with them, but we really expect you as community leaders to come to us and say, oh, you showed us this specific data, come and please, get engaged with this specific organization that provides those services. Because one of the things that, for example, we talked about, I think is a big thing, is we had about 2 years ago, record year for homicides, right? And we analyzed that information and saw that 50% had to do with either domestic violence or behavioral health component, right? And so that to us was like, what do we do in those specific areas around that data? We need that context. So it's partnering with specific nonprofits that provide those services, getting them put in specific areas in the community. What are we doing with our mobile crisis team, expanding that through the budget process that the county executive uses to kind of funnel data into making those decisions. But we really need you all to bring us what services are in the communities so that we can make sure that information reaches the right person and has the right context. Because as you know, information can be manipulated in different ways. I mean, presidential elections, everything. But the reality is that, we need the context on the ground. And that's what we hope you can connect us with.
Yeah, and my only suggestion, is there any way on the site that it can be identified that, hey, this is just, don't take this for face value. If there are concerns in whatever targeted area, to reach out to the community. Because there may be some people that say, look, I don't need to go to the Board of Education because all of the data is here. I'm just using that as an example. Is there any way to at least make that transparent on the website so it's not a one-stop shop that people can take the information and be misinformed?
Every dashboard has a disclaimer page. You have to click accept. Whether you read it or not, but it says all that. Yep, absolutely.
Thank you. Can we give them a big round of a hand, please, of applause? All right. I am the only thing standing between you and lunch, and I know some people are making their way in with lunch now. I just quickly wanted to go over a couple of things. One, thank you again to our presenters. I know that was very informative, and they have tables out here. So both code enforcement and our data team have tables, so please make sure you visit them during your lunch. This is a networking lunch, so I know we stay kind of in silos with our own folks in our own community, but you have all the districts represented here, so please make sure that you mingle with some folks at your table, talk to our departments. We have our police department. I see wonderful Major Lily here in the audience, who is doing a lot of stuff around community policing, along with our Chief Robert McAuliffe as well. So please make sure you just network, do what you need to do. In your red packets, just real quick, you will have you should have a agenda. If you do not have an agenda, you can grab one at the registration table, and you will have your breakout session schedule. So these, you can go to any of them. There are 30 people max to a room. We have 6. We are starting right at 12:35. Okay, so once we hit our 30, you just have to move on to the next room. How we're going to track our breakout sessions is with our Community Leaders Summit Passport. So you've seen these at different health fairs and stuff, so you all should have a passport in your red folder. If you don't, you can grab one at the registration table. Once you attend a breakout session, you can either place a little sticker on here, or there are stickers in each breakout session room, or you can just give it a little check mark. So either or, you don't have to search for the stickers. You can give it a little check mark. And if you get to 4 or more of these breakout sessions, that includes the Stop the Bleed session if you have signed up for that, you will get a prize at the end. And when you leave, before you leave, even if you have to leave early, we will give you a nice little prize when you leave. Just turn it into the registration table. So for that, if you need to register for Stop the Bleed, you can do so at the registration table. Those are only running 3 times. So if you look at your back of the agenda, that's a 12:35, a 1:45, and a 2:55 start time for that. The rest of the breakout sessions will run every 30 minutes with a 5-minute transition period in between. We will keep our agencies on schedule, but you can get to as many as you'd like. And on that note, thank you guys so much. Have a great lunch. Have a great workout or network session. And you can have your lunch right in here as well. Thank you all.